Arriving in New York City in the early 20th century meant navigating through long, dark, and soot-filled tunnels. But imagine making that journey, and when you finally step out of the train, you are bathed in a sudden rush of natural light. You haven't emerged into a basement or a cramped terminal. You are standing inside a structure so vast, its interior floor plan easily dwarfs many of Europe's most famous cathedrals. Outside, the scale was just as intimidating. The architectural firm McKim, Mead White wrapped the station in a massive stone facade, lining the exterior with heavy, imposing columns, inspired by the monumental ruins of ancient Rome. Inside, the main waiting room mimicked the towering, vaulted designs of classical Roman baths. Tens of thousands of passengers passed under these massive coffered ceilings every single day. Completed in 1910, this structure stood at the center of Manhattan as a physical declaration of American ambition. It was a monumental cathedral dedicated to modern transit. Yet all of that classical stonework was hiding something industrial. The ornate columns masked a complex, modern engineering network of underground tracks and tunnels connecting Manhattan to the growing rail system. To illuminate subterranean tracks, engineers suspended a massive canopy of glass and exposed steel trusses, filtering sunlight directly down to the waiting travelers. It was an unparalleled achievement of architecture and engineering, and yet, less than a lifetime later, the entire structure was reduced to rubble. Why would a society, flush with wealth and engineering prowess, willingly dismantle its own crowning achievement? The building didn't fall to a natural disaster or structural failure. It was dismantled because the American definition of progress had aggressively shifted. By the middle of the 20th century, the way Americans moved was changing. The interstate highway system was expanding, commercial air travel was booming, and the era of the luxury passenger train was ending. This chart tracks mid-century transit. Notice the steep decline in passenger rail volume, entirely eclipsed by sharply rising automobile and airline usage. Now, factor in the upkeep for an aging stone terminal. As revenue plummets, maintenance costs skyrocket, creating an unsustainable financial gap. Desperate to adapt, management crammed modern ticketing structures and fluorescent lights into the classical concourses. The original elegance was quickly buried under mid-century commercialism. Under the logic of mid-century development, the terminal's massive footprint and soaring maintenance costs transformed it into a financial liability. The solution for the Pennsylvania Railroad was entirely financial. They approved a plan to level the historic terminal and sell the air rights. In its place, a lucrative new office complex and a sports arena would rise. In 1963, the heavy machinery arrived. Crews began dismantling the stone giants. One by one, the massive Roman columns were battered into dust. From above, the scale of the destruction is striking. The grand halls were peeled open, leaving a sprawling crater of exposed steel and scattered debris. Images of dismembered statues and ruined archways in national newspapers redefined the event for the public. A private corporate decision had become a shared national loss. Witnessing the violence of the demolition shifted the event from a standard real estate deal into a devastating national tragedy. The backlash was immediate. Architects, historians, and ordinary citizens mobilized, taking to the streets with picket signs to protest the ongoing demolition. A realization began to spread. If a structure as vast and historically significant as Pennsylvania Station could be legally bought and destroyed in a matter of months, no historic building in the country was safe. That fear forced lawmakers into action. Just a few years later, Congress passed the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. This legislation established a legal framework, empowering communities to officially identify and protect historical sites from falling victim to sudden corporate redevelopment. The destruction of Penn Station forced the government to institutionalize the protection of the past. The physical building was lost to the landfill, its stones dumped in the New Jersey Meadowlands. But the lesson it taught the country endured. The tragedy changed how Americans balanced the drive for modern growth with protecting their history. Today, whenever historic buildings are threatened, the memory of Penn Station is invoked as a warning. Pennsylvania Station was sacrificed for the public to recognize the irreplaceable value of historic architecture. It leaves us to look at the buildings around us today and ask, what will we save next before it's too late?